Brewster County, Texas is the largest county in a large state and unbridled wilderness on the Mexico border. Rugged, remote, and sparsely populated, Brewster is best known as the gateway to Big Bend National Park and Big Bend Ranch State Park. I've heard this area is as contrasting in its beauty as it is cut off from the mainstream world. But I want to find out for myself, so I've arranged to meet with Mike Davidson from the Brewster County Tourism Council and visit BigBend.com. The first place Mike takes me is Lajitas Stables in Big Bend Ranch State Park, the largest park in the state.
Which is kind of nice, gives us 350,000 acres to play with. Lots of opportunities for hiking, mountain biking, horseback riding, bird watching, sightseeing, pretty much anything you can name.
I asked Janelle to describe her ideal day in Big Bend.
I personally would love to get a horse and go tool around in the wild and crazy parts of the park, but that's not necessarily something that everybody would want to do.
But what makes the Big Bend region so attractive is there's more than likely something you'll want to do. Park interpreter David Elkowitz refers to Big Bend National Park as 3 parks in one because its landscape changes so dramatically. Basically, it's a desert nurtured by the Rio Grande, creating a mixed tableau of water and earth, a palette of arid browns and tropical greens. It also happens to be one of the most biologically diverse parks in the States,
including the most birds, the most cactus, the most bats, the most species of butterflies, and even the most species of reptiles and scorpions. You can step off of any part of Big Bend, any paved road, any trail, any dirt road, even 10 feet, and find something that you might not expect. A new plant, some part of our cultural history, petrified wood, something unusual.
Within hours, I go from a trail ride through corrugated foothills to a scenic float down the Rio Grande, the river whose sharp curve through Texas gives the park its name and the state its unique shape.
Here we are around Big Hill, one of the most scenic drives through the Big Bend area, and it's between Lajitas and Presidio. Open desert is okay, but canyons are more impressive, dramatic, spectacular, and also provide us some shade. This is a road, a different road, and this is a different vehicle.
I later catch up with Greg Hennington of the aptly named Far Flung Outdoor Center. His company runs everything from rafting and canoe trips to Jeep and ATV tours throughout the park.
The best way to see the canyon, truly, is to spend a couple of nights down there and go do an overnight or a 3-day trip and float. We have 5 canyons out here to select from, and they're all fantastic.
The following morning, I rise early. The sun ascends in southwest Texas just after 8 a.m., illuminating a distant canyon wall, then finally climbing above the mountains. My first stop today is Terlingua, a once thriving mercury mining town that shut down for good in the 1940s. It's now resurrected itself as a tourist stop.
Behind me here is the Perry Mansion. And this mine was developed around the turn of the century, around 1905, by Howard Perry, an industrialist from Chicago. And he made quite a bit of money off the works here and built this mansion for his own benefit and that of his wife, who came down for one day, took a big look, and turned around and went back to Chicago, never to return again.
All these structures out here, are those like for miners or were those actually families?
Well, the miners were allowed to build their own.
And coming out here, and the weather is always gorgeous, and everybody's so friendly, and it's just, you know, it's a wonderful place to come and visit.
But this area gets in your blood.
It does.
And
Absolutely,
you don't
it does.
lose it.
Yeah.
The scenery changes quickly in the Big Bend region. Just a few miles from Terlingua's desertscape, the terrains turn lush and green. I've come here to hike the 1-mile trail to Cattail Falls in the flanks of the Chizos Mountains.
So the Sotol plant growing in the desert right here, the stalks were used locally to provide shade in what we call a ramada.
Here we are in Big Bend National Park at Cattail Falls. There's a species of orchid that grows here, and just lots of little tiny species that don't exist for many miles outside of this canyon.
After a short rest at Cattail Falls, I hike to the gorge at St. Elena Canyon and watch a raft float down the Rio Grande. The river runs 1,700 miles from its source in the Colorado Rockies to the Gulf of Mexico.
It's a very capricious river, but one that I've been intimately familiar with this river for 33 years that I've been in this area, and there's nothing like it.
Later I asked Mike what's kept him here so long. He tells me that even after all this time, he can still hike into the backcountry and feel like he's the first person ever to set foot in that particular location. In a place as rugged and remote as this, I'm not surprised, but I sure am glad.
It's very rewarding for me to see people leave and go back home kind of with somewhat of a new perspective on their own lives and kind of with a little smile on their face. And many of them fall in love with this area and come back year after year.